Nuri screamed in frustration, declaring he was exhausted from selling his soul to drawing lewd art and tired of the world. He threw his stylus at the wall and slammed his fist against the art desk. He begged Rosaria to bring him back to his world, lamenting the endless commissions filled with bizarre and explicit requests like ZZZ Cup and Amazonia bushes. He regretted falling into the dark side of our 18 commissions, which began as side hustle to improve his artistic skills. Initially, he drew sketches of pretty girls, but a wealthy classmate offered 40,000 LCs for a portrait of his crush, which Nuri accepted. Then others requested more cleavage and eventually full nudity for 100,000 LCs. Greed took over, and Nuri started pressuring schoolmates into our 18 commissions, becoming the Academy's premier purveyor of every depravity imaginable. His reputation as the lewd artist became his identity, and he was only commissioned for the freakiest adolescent fantasies. The blonde man stared into empty space, his eyes fixed on a translucent status window only. He could see the system. Rosaria responded coldly that he had brought this upon himself, and that what was done was done. Nuri insisted it was an accident, but the system reminded him that 18 years had passed and it was spoiled milk. He argued that Rosaria was a god who sent him to this world, but she replied that her powers were exhausted after sending him and they had made a pact. Nuri slumped back into his swivel chair, running a hand down his face. He was not originally from this world, but had reincarnated into one where spellcraft coexisted with modern technology. After dying in a shameful manner, he refused to disclose he had been the third prince of a domineering empire known for his bad temper and underworld activities. Caring little for political schemes, he only wanted a good life filled with indulgences, all of which were now gone. More disheartening was how he had changed, finding his calling in painting masterpieces that nobles envied and begged for. Just as he began to rise as one of the greatest painters of his time, he died. The delinquent prince had transformed into a revolutionary artist, but his life ended prematurely. Thinking about it depressed him. The system flickered back into view, teasing him about caring for mortal wives when he had a literal goddess. Nuri asked if she was his wife, but Rosaria deflected, reminding him she had shown her face once, enough for 18 years. Imagining her smug behind the translucent window made Nuri clench his fist, tempted to strike at the system, then asked if he was prepared, and Nuri affirmed, seeing it as his only chance to shed the lewd artist label. Rosaria mocked him for sounding like the nickname was forced on him, reminding him he had bullied students into commissioning his art. Nuri cleared his throat as the door to his dorm slammed open, revealing his innocent-looking brown-haired roommate Cookie, who announced excitedly that the labyrinth was about to open in an hour. Cookie's manic excitement signaled the golden hour had arrived. Nuri recalled the pact with Rosaria to reach the deepest floor of the labyrinth or remain stuck in purgatory with her. Rosaria had vowed to take him down with her if she went. Sighing, Nuri beckoned Cookie, donning the Academy's blazer marked Explorer Academy. As Nuri walked down the hall, students parted, fearful of him. One student sprinted toward him, nearly crashing before grabbing his arm. Yunera demanded to know when her commission would be done. Needing it urgently, Nuri tried to shake her off, irritated that she was concerned about BL commissions before the labyrinth. Briefing, Cookie joined, complaining that his commission, ordered earlier, was still on hold. Yunera clung tighter, lamenting how she would live without her precious June and May, drawn kissing her mouth, telling the pair to shut up. Rosaria's voice mocked him as the consequences of his actions. Nuri shook Yunera off and grabbed Cookie's sleeve, warning they needed to leave her face. Running laps around the Colosseum before the labyrinth, Yunera dreamily insisted she could run laps as long as she got her BL piece. Nuri asked Cookie to knock her out, but Cookie refused, claiming to be pacifist. Nuri called him a coward and pulled him down the corridor, Yunera trailing like a pesky fly. Yunera then revealed she had bought basic gear for the labyrinth at cost of 2 million labyrinth coins, putting up her ancestral sword as collateral. Nuri's expression soured, shocked that the amount was more than he earned in 8 months of drawing, and questioned where the money came from, especially since she had paid him 80,000 front for the BL. Peace Cookie chimed in, questioning why she hadn't saved for the tithe and if she wanted execution to come faster. Yunera waved off the concerns. Yunera insisted she could repay the money, quickly explaining the tithe was only 800,000 labyrinth coins per month for the first 6 months, and that Explorer Academy students enjoyed a 10% discount. She confidently declared she wouldn't face execution. Cookie face-bombed in response, and when Nuri and Cookie simultaneously questioned who we referred to, Yunera laughed wildly as the boys quietly distanced themselves from her. Nuri considered replacing Yunera, but realized all labyrinth squads were already full. His remaining 2 squadmates were likely gathered at the Colosseum, where the labyrinth's entrance awaited. Through the corridor windows, the Colosseum loomed at the Academy's heart, and today marked the labyrinth's opening. Beneath it, Nuri grinned, feeling this was the start of his journey to becoming a legendary artist. He recalled the saying that if something could be expressed in words, painting would be unnecessary. He had every reason to paint. Upon reaching the Colosseum, the trio split up to mingle with other students and exchange wishes. Before the ordeal began, the Colosseum, once a marble amphitheater rebuilt 50 years prior to house the labyrinth's entrance, featured a long colonnade leading to a massive black archway large enough to swallow cathedral. The colonnade was crowded with about 100 18-year-old first years in Academy blazers, half visibly scared and clutching their stomachs, the others pretending to be fine. These classmates, inexperienced and frightened by the possibility of death, were about to enter the labyrinth, where nearly a quarter of first years never returned. In the first month alone, Nuri wondered how brutal the monsters on the first floor could be. A first year named Leonard nervously asked if he could tap out, admitting he wasn't ready. Dekion, his carefree and intrepid companion who seemed to relish the labyrinth's dangers, reassured him to relax. Nearby group of girls gossiped about a sale on Felicitas items and joked about shopping sprees after the labyrinth as a way to de-stress. Nuri considered his own potential shopping spree for new drawing supplies and digital art tools, noting the limitations of his aging tablet and stylus. Daphne, a sharp-eyed girl with sun-brown skin and dark hair, approached Nuri energetically and asked how he felt. He replied that he had never felt better. She wished him luck and promised to protect him if they met inside the labyrinth. Nuri responded with a laugh, and she teased him as the scoundrel of House Natlon before giggling and waving goodbye. Next, 2 boys and a girl in Academy blazers pushed through the crowd, laughing and mocking Nuri. Aurelian, a blonde man with sharp blue eyes and a cruel smile, called him a disgrace to House Natlon and questioned why he was even there. Raphael, a tall student with slicked back black hair, urged Nuri to quit while he could, predicting his death inside. Penelope, a girl at the back of the group, dismissed him with cold remark without making a contact. Aurelian continued to insult Nuri, calling him a stain on his house's legacy and labeling him a lewd artist. Penelope called him pervert. Raphael added deviant, and Aurelian concluded he was a plague upon their class. Nuri, unable to tolerate the insults, placed a hand on Raphael's shoulder and warned them to stop or he would fight all 3. Raphael's stern expression broke almost immediately as he claimed the insults were Aurelian's idea. Aurelian called Raphael a traitor, and Penelope accused him of being a snitch. The group then burst into laughter, with Raphael declaring it was worth it and Aurelian showing no regrets. Despite irritation, Nuri felt a bittersweet emotion, realizing his friends had grown enough to behave like immature bullies. They exchanged playful threats and exaggerated mock fear before Aurelian approached Nuri, slinging an arm over his shoulder and asking if he was alright. Nuri asked what was wrong with everyone, and Penelope flatly said she was just checking in. Raphael nodded, explaining they knew Nuri's abilities but still needed to look out for each other. Aurelian Aurelian warned Nuri that a mean look could get him killed in the labyrinth, citing karma. Nuri shrugged him off, but smiled. The group dispersed, with Aurelian saluting lazily Raphael, warning him not to embarrass them, and Penelope wishing Nuri safety. Nuri noted the trio's sharp edges and contrasts, especially Penelope's taciturn nature contrasting with his own squad of Cookie and Yunera, whose personalities meshed well. Everyone settled into their spots as Cookie and Yunera returned beside Nuri after a few minutes of silence. Professor Kendros Almina strode onto the platform and addressed the students. Known for her ruthlessness and high standards, she reminded the class of 50 that the labyrinth would open in 1 hour, and stepping through would make them explorers. She emphasized the weight of becoming history, the reality that some would not return, and that they were no longer hatchlings, but full-fledged birds meant to soar. The colonnade was so quiet that a stomach gurgle sounded loud. Kendros encouraged them not to be afraid, reminding them the academy had prepared them for this day, and they had anticipated having joined the academy seeking honor and glory, not just survival. The students shouted no in unison. The labyrinth had appeared in this world half a century ago, bringing with it the gods of the pantheon who demanded patronage and entertainment from mortals. Upon turning 18, every person was obligated to pay a monthly tithe to the church, the empire, or the divine association, whatever name the organization went by, or face execution. Execution was the consequence for failing to comply. The only currency accepted by the gods was labyrinth coins, obtainable solely by killing monsters within the labyrinth. These coins had effectively become the sole currency of the world. People risked their lives to collect enough labyrinth coins to pay their tithe and survive month after month. Others sought glory, drawn to the deadly cat and mouse game between gods and mortals. If one could become strong and legendary, it made sense to give their all. Death was the only alternative. The Explorer Academy had instilled this mindset throughout their year of training. Kendros embodying Steel nodded approvingly. She then commanded the students to proceed into the labyrinth. At her signal, the students gathered on the Colosseum field. The marble beneath them began to tremble, humming as the entire floor sank. Cries erupted as they struggled for balance. Eyes wide, the Colosseum's hidden machinery. Yunera pressed both hands flat against Nuri's back, marveling that the labyrinth gate lay just beneath the Colosseum. Nuri laughed softly and asked Cookie where the rest of their squad was. Cookie replied that Vivian and Crus were with their friend groups. Nuri clicked his tongue, emphasizing the importance of focusing on survival and not losing any members before regrouping. Cookie glanced at Yunera, fully geared up, warning that he didn't want to see 2 million labyrinth coins disappear. The massive circular platform finally reached the bottom, revealing a long corridor of white quartz illuminated by luminescent blue light. A girl exclaimed that it looked like an aquarium, and another agreed, recalling seniors describing it as the most beautiful place they had ever seen. As they walked, murmurs continued. Cookie asked Nuri how much a small chunk of quartz might sell, for prompting Nuri to scold him for thinking about money again. Cookie defended himself, insisting Nuri was supposed to keep his secret about drawing furries. Nuri swatted Cookie's hand away teasingly, calling him the fluffy fiend, which Cookie denied loudly, drawing the attention of nearby students. Cookie quickly dismissed the interruption and asked Nuri if he had decided which weapon and essence to pick. Nuri admitted uncertainty, noting they didn't even know which essences would be available. Cookie pointed out that having a head start was better than nothing, and Nuri agreed. One advantage of entering the academy was receiving a starter pack, a solid weapon, and an essence. The only way to grow stronger in the labyrinth was by consuming essences dropped by monsters. Gaining imprints, most people struggled to obtain their first essence even after multiple runs, so buying essences with saved labyrinth coins was common. The academy provided a starter imprint before the first exploration, greatly increasing survival chances and helping avoid execution. However, not every student received an essence. It depended on academic and field performance, as well as the seniors' ability to collect them. At the corridor's end, the space opened into a wide square room dominated by a massive stone structure carved with a 20-meter tall archway lined with gold filigree. The students gathered before the labyrinth labyrinth gate, while the professors stood with their backs against. Professor Kendros stepped forward as the faculty representative, and the room fell silent. She reminded them that rankings in practical and theoretical evaluations determined who received essences, and announced that the number of essences collected by their seniors would now be revealed. Just then a side door opened, and a tall girl with long wavy blonde hair and pale blue eyes entered. Her flawless appearance exuded beauty beyond words. Whispers spread rapidly among the students, recognizing her as Celendia, a senior nearing the 5th constellation, a feat considered impossible for a 4th-year explorer. Some students debated her true rating, while others admired her beauty and joked about marrying her, only to be warned of her lethal reputation. Cookie nudged Nuri, pointing out Celendia's presence. She was the eldest daughter of Patrick Galanoir, patriarch of House Galanoir, endowed with resources and talent to become a great explorer. Nuri acknowledged that he, too, came from a prominent house, as did many students attending the academy, through connections and family legacies, much like the prestigious Royal Academy of his original world. Names like Daphne Valentine of House Valentine, Penelope Binoc of House Binoc, Unera Levish, daughter of Christian Levish, Cookie Lacreme, son of Desmond and Julia Lacreme, and Dekion Dershire, son of Mariana Dershire, exemplified the elite student body. Nuri was born with a silver spoon, just as in his past life, gaining entry to the Explorer Academy through his status as the 3rd generation of House Natlon. Despite his prestigious lineage, he remained the black sheep of the family. His parents had been legendary explorers who both died fighting the overlord of the 13th floor, and his grandfather had reached the 12th floor. His older sister, whom he hadn't seen in some time, managed House Natlon as its matriarch. Meanwhile, Nuri was known at the academy as the lewd artist. He redirected his attention to the ceremony. Celendia, Galanoir 4th constellation, stood beside Professor Kendros and congratulated the academy's newest class of explorers. The students applauded until Celendia announced the number of available essences and the first-year rankings. Silencing the room, she revealed that 25 essences were available for the 108 students, sparking murmurs about the increase from last year's 18. Celendia then began announcing the rankings. First place went to Lycoris Lydigian, who quietly stepped forward to select her essence. Cookie Lacreme asked Nuri what rank he expected, and Nuri guessed top 5. The second place was Daphne Valentine, who greeted the announcement with an insufferable grin. Third place was Aurelian Beringer, who exchanged nods with Nuri before stepping forward. Fourth was Adrian Kramer. When Celendia announced 5th place, she called Nuri Natlan's name. Some students appeared surprised, others indifferent. Nuri, known for being a troublemaker who nonetheless earned high marks, walked forward as Cookie sighed loudly. Celendia gave Nuri a small nod and smile as he approached the tray of essences. He picked a vial, knowing the choice mattered little given the power Rosaria would grant him through their pact. The rest of the top 20 selected their essences, including Nuri's friends and acquaintances: Dekion Dershire at 8th, Penelope Binoc at 10th, Cookie at 12th, Raphael at 13th, and Unera Levish at 20th. Leonard surprisingly placed 6th despite his timid nature. After the ceremony, everyone chose their weapons. Nuri selected a simple iron sword, the only weapon he had trained with his entire life. The students lined up before the giant archway where the labyrinth portal would open, ordered by ranking. Nuri stood 5th in line. Kendros addressed them with final instructions, emphasizing the random teleportation within the 1st floor, the importance of sticking with peers, forming parties with assigned squadmates, and ignoring strangers. The students responded in unison, and the gold filigree on the archway began to glow. Light traveled along the patterns until the entire structure shone brightly, vibrating through the floor and their chests. The center of the archway darkened, revealing a pool of pure black where the wall had been. The labyrinth gate was open. Leonard leaned in behind Nuri, wishing him good luck. Nuri returned the sentiment radiant with sympathy, thinking Leonard was not ready. Adrian fourth in line glanced back and warned Nuri he was dead when she found him. Inside, Nuri responded with a smirk and a joke before focusing on the portal. Lycoris stepped through, first disappearing into the darkness. Daphne followed with a two-finger salute and a grin. Aurelian entered without ceremony, and then Adrian, who shot Nuri one last glare before vanishing. Nuri approached the portal. Its darkness absorbed all light and revealed nothing of what lay beyond. He took a deep breath and stepped through the world behind him, dissolving into nothingness. Time flashed before his eyes, not past or future, but time itself with its inevitability. He found himself in a damp dungeon. Behind him was a dead-end. Stone bricks formed narrow corridors beside him, and darkness lay ahead. He began to ask Rosaria if she could see anything when a primal scream tore through the night, followed by the sounds of flesh tearing, bones snapping, and blood gurgling, a sickening vibration that resonated through the dungeon corridor. Rosaria instructed Nuri to move while granting him her blessing, emphasizing the need for room to escape danger. Nuri gripped his sword's hilt and advanced cautiously, mindful to avoid making noise, each breath feeling too loud. In the oppressive silence, the corridor reeked of mildew, old blood, and corpses stretching ahead, dimly lit by the faint green glow of moss in the cracks between stones. Nuri heard a shuffle somewhere ahead, likely the perpetrators who had killed the human. He acknowledged the bad feeling, but pressed forward slowly through the narrow passageway.